Hello, this is Alonzo Bodden, and I would like to welcome you to episode 325 of my podcast, Who's Paying Attention? Here I am again, and I thank you for listening. And, I'm going to get right into this. Oh, by the way, it may sound a little wonky or funky or something. I am recording from a hotel room in Spokane, Washington. That's right, I'm back on the road. I'm in Spokane, which is an interesting town. I don't really know much about this city. I will tell you this, diversity might not be one of their strong points. I've actually seen more white guys with dreads than I have black people, but it's a good looking downtown with a big park along the river. So, it is what it is, great crowd, and I'm back to work. So that's all good. So recording through headphones from the hotel, so the sound may not be that great, and for that, I apologize. Okay, getting back into it. If you have a friend who's a Republican and they're not worth $10 million or more, you may want to check on them. And I don't mean check on them in the sense of, try to change their minds or anything. I mean check on them in the sense there's something wrong with somebody. If you're not super rich and Republican just to avoid paying taxes, or if you're a devout racist and public about it and all that, then I understand you being Republican. But this ordinary person, and I've talked about this before, this mysterious working class white male Republican. Let me tell you something. This scam, and that's all you can call it, that the Republicans are running of being the working class people's party. Doesn't that sound kind of communist, the working class people's party? Anyway, we're the working class party. We just do everything we can against the working class. Their latest thing is turning down federal unemployment money. So, as you know, the federal government during the COVID shutdown over the past year supplemented people's unemployment because you couldn't live on what was given as unemployment. I mean, here in California where I live, I think they were paying $450 a week. And you're not going to live on $450 a week. So initially, the feds gave an extra $600 a week, I think it was, and then that dropped to an extra $300 a week. And the Republicans are saying that unemployment pays so much that people don't want to go to work. Well, that's not true. And even if it is true, let's look at why are minimum wages so low? Why, if the wages are too low for people to go to work, why did they fight the increase in minimum wage? Now remember, we're talking about your Republican friend, and this is the party of the working class people, but they fought increasing the minimum wage. They had no fight on increasing the maximum wage. They said that this past year, the billionaires have made more money than ever. You have the CEOs getting paid millions and millions and all of that stuff. No problem with that. Raise the minimum wage? No. So how can you be against raising minimum wage and then say people won't go to work because wages are too low? So what is their solution? Well, let's cut the unemployment. Let's make the poor people, and not even poor people, let's make the working people, the people who lost their jobs because of COVID, et cetera, let's make it even harder on them. So right now, the Republican states are cutting off federal supplemental unemployment benefits, and all of these states happen to have Republican governors. Well, imagine that. It's a lose-lose. It's a lose-lose, right? So either it's minimum wage or unemployment benefit. Either way, people are not working, and Here's the thing. Here's another thing. This myth that they provide that people just don't want to work, it's another big lie. People want to work. People want to support themselves. We've seen it over and over. Given the opportunity, people will go to work. So this whole thing about, again, if you're a Republican, what's going on? They want to affect the corporate tax rate. They don't want corporate taxes to go up. Now, who does that benefit? Lowering corporate taxes, does that benefit you, working class American, or does that benefit people who are rich and people who use corporate tax loopholes and people who use capital gains tax, et cetera, et cetera? For the rich, the super rich, tax rates are lower than they've been ever. And the tax increases that the Democrats are talking about are like, okay, we're going to bring tax rates back to where they were in the 1950s, which is weird because the Republicans loved the 1950s, right? They had segregation and there were no Latinos and it was white males and they could sexually harass women at the office. They could pretty much do whatever they wanted. They liked the 1950s, but they didn't like those 1950s taxes, I guess. The Republicans are anti-truth. Straight up anti-truth. We don't believe in cancel culture unless we're doing the canceling. On Memorial Day, and this, remember, these are the good Americans, right? These are the military first, America first, blah, blah, blah. On Memorial Day in Ohio, they actually cut off the microphone of a war veteran, 77-year-old Army Lieutenant Colonel Bernard Kempter, giving a speech on Memorial Day at a cemetery. Could anything be more American? Could anything be more American than a veteran giving a speech at a military cemetery on Memorial Day? They cut off his microphone. Now remember, these are the people who are against the cancel culture. Don't cancel me, don't cancel me, don't cancel me. You said something that I don't agree with, you're canceled. They cut off his microphone because he spoke about the origins of Memorial Day being black, coming from freed slaves. Now, in Charleston, after the Civil War, but once Charleston was done with the Civil War, the freed slaves in Charleston dug up mass graves and interred the bodies of soldiers who fought for the Union in the Civil War. And then they had a parade and they memorialized these soldiers who had been buried in this mass grave. And that is considered the beginning of Memorial Day. So Memorial Day, now there's different arguments and stuff like that, but he was telling this story about, and it's historians seem to say, yeah, this is how it happened, that Memorial Day was started by freed slaves in Charleston, South Carolina. Well, of course, that doesn't fit the narrative of this Memorial Day speech in Ohio. So they actually cut off his microphone. He said he thought there was some technical difficulty. No, and they were like, no, we shut the mic off. We didn't want you teaching Black history on Memorial Day. We didn't want you telling the truth on Memorial Day. But hey, we don't believe in the cancel culture just when we cancel you. They really don't care about the truth. Again, talk to your Republican friends. Talk to them. They need help. They're not vaccinated because they don't believe in the vaccine. And it's just one thing after another. And the lies, it's fascinating. They almost, I think, personally, why would I say that during my own podcast? Obviously, this is personally what I think, but the article that I was pulling up, Mitch McConnell said, and this is what I'm talking about the lie being told, the simple lie being told. Mitch McConnell said that he doesn't think government should have anything to do with how race is taught in schools. And then he went on to trash the 1619 Project. And as you know, the Republicans are absolutely against critical race theory, which is teaching the true history of the United States and what a big part slavery played in building the United States. The United States was built on slavery. The economy of the United States was built on slavery. You know it, and I know it. They had free labor. And 1619 was the beginning of it gave the date of the beginning of the slave trade. Now, McConnell sat up there and said, oh, we should teach dates like 1776. He had the nerve to say that we should teach the date 1965, which is when the Voting Rights Act was signed. Meanwhile, the Republican Party is doing everything they can to roll back the Voting Rights Act and the ability of minorities to vote. They're doing everything all the old tricks, right? Shut the polls down early, limit mail-in ballots. You know, they even had the thing in Georgia where you can't give water to people standing in the heat waiting to vote. Who supports this? Check on them. Check on your Republican friends because they're having problems. Maybe they just, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe their brain got baked in the heat or something. I don't understand how any, quote, working class person, if you're not a multimillionaire or an devout racist, how can you be a Republican? I just don't understand it. They shut down the inquiry into January 6th insurrection. Why? Because they said if the truth comes out, it will hurt them in the 2022 midterm elections. They actually said, we can't have you people knowing the truth. Speaking of the insurrection, Richard Barnett, he's the guy who was in Pelosi's office with his feet up on the desk. Yeah, he's selling autographed pictures for $100 to pay for his legal defense. He's actually selling pictures of him sitting in Nancy Pelosi's office with his feet up on her desk to pay for his legal defense for having been arrested for breaking into Nancy Pelosi's office and keeping his feet on her desk. And he says that his note to her wasn't threatening because he didn't write bitch, he wrote biatch. He added the letter A. Republicans, how do you account for this? What is the story? Nobody could be more anti-intelligence, if this happens again, Jesus Christ, stop. Again, I'm sorry about this recording. There is a glitch in the matrix. Good God. What is this thing? I'm going to have to do something about this where you can't turn off an ad when you look at something and the ad just comes in. Continuing on this problems with the Republican Party, and these are real problems that I'm talking about. These are not instances. This is how the party operates, okay? If you remember way back when Barack Obama was president, one of the things he did was go after these for-profit colleges. You remember all these colleges that used to run ads on daytime TV? You know, you can get a degree in 2 years or 6 months or whatever, and you just have to pay. Well, part of their scam was they had these questionable, whether or not they were colleges is questionable. The accrediting to them was shaky at best, but they got it. They get some fake college thing set up, and they would get government money because people would apply for loans and the government would pay for their education. So Barack Obama shut all that down, put a stop to all of that. And then Trump came in and said, why would you not do it? Scam the government money? I'm doing it. Why can't you do it? So they returned accrediting to these schools. There was some agency, the Accrediting Council for Independent Colleges and Schools. Like these things, when they make up these names, it's almost like cartoons. Like if you're old enough to remember the Bugs Bunny cartoons and the Roadrunner and all that, everything came from Acme. Like everything they bought came from Acme. It'd be the Acme Bomb Factory, or the Acme this or that. They just make up these names. So here's the agency, the Accrediting Council for Independent Colleges and Schools approved the Reagan National University in Sioux Falls. So they investigated this school. The Reagan National University in Sioux Falls seems to have no evidence of students or faculty. It's an accredited college with no students and no faculty. Why? Because it's a scam to collect government money, to collect student loans or whatever. So the Undersecretary for Education, Jordan Matsudaria, said that they're not only shutting down this university, they're shutting down this accreditor, the Accrediting Council for Independent Colleges and Schools. The whole thing's a scam. The whole thing's a scam. I shouldn't be laughing, but I'm laughing because, again, they don't even try hard with these lies. They're just so comfortable with these lies that they just throw out anything. Now, these are the same people, okay, it's the Republican Party. These are the same people who are fighting against forgiving student loans for students who went to real universities. They're and have student debt, etc. They're completely against helping them, but they're fine with this fake university and this fake organization of that's accrediting them. It's amazing. How can you be a Republican? I just don't understand it. If you have a friend, check on them. Check the same way. They call it a welfare check. Like when you haven't heard from someone who lives alone and you check or you send the authorities to check and make sure they're okay. Check on your Republicans because this is just, there's no explaining it anymore. Now, let's talk about my sponsor, BetterHelp.com. You know I love these people. You know I love what they do. BetterHelp.com is here to aid in mental health. And I'm going to be talking about this a little more in the podcast. But here's the thing. There's a lot going on, okay? There's a lot going on, a lot of stress. I talked about unemployment, financial strain. Some people are coming back from the pandemic, okay? Some aren't. Some people, many of us have lost people during the pandemic. So there's grief to deal with. There are so many things that are going on. Stress, anger, family troubles. This is Pride Month. LGBT matters are an issue. I talked about grief, self-esteem, maybe having trouble sleeping. All of these things can relate to mental health. You need to take care of yourself, and that's where BetterHelp.com comes in. Okay, BetterHelp.com, you can get in touch with a therapist, with a professional. Okay, it's not a crisis line, it's not self-help. You're talking to a professional counselor privately within 48 hours. It's convenient, it's affordable. You can do it through the internet, you can do it through the phone. The service is available. Okay, you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to go anywhere. You get to talk to your counselor anytime, and it's professional. It is affordable, and we're going to make it more affordable. We're going to help. As a listener, you get 10% off your first month by visiting BetterHelp.com/Alonzo. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Alonzo. 10% off your first month. Listen, take care of your mental health, okay? You are not the only one. I've talked about this before. Stress, anxiety, grief, depression, these things are real. Mental health is real. Take care of yourself. BetterHelp.com. You won't regret it. You're probably getting in the way of your own happiness. I know I have at various times. So please do this for you. And while I'm on the topic, and this relates to something I talked about on the last podcast, I was talking about these incredible women athletes that are out here now, particularly black women athletes, and what they're doing. And sadly, I also have to talk about how they're being treated. Now, I talked about Naomi Osaka last week. Naomi Osaka is 23 years old. She's a number 2 ranked tennis player in the world. Last year, she was the highest earning female athlete in the world. She earned $55 million, $50 million of it in endorsements. And now she's not playing in the French Open. She said that she needs a break for her own mental health. She doesn't want to do media, okay? And the French Open, initially, they mocked her about it, but now they're trying to pressure her, saying that you have to do media, you can't skip it and this and that. And she's like, okay, well, I just won't play. And they're going to fine her for not playing, et cetera. You know, and athletes are coming out in support of her because she's taking care of herself. Listen, press is part of the job, but there are times when maybe you just can't deal with it. Maybe it's too much. Now, what's being said and what is true is there's some racial and gender discrimination going on here, because if Tom Brady decides to skip a press conference, they ain't going to stop Tom Brady from playing in the Super Bowl. Nobody's going to be, hey, Tom, you can't play. If LeBron James or we don't have to worry about that this year, he's out. But if Kevin Durant decides he's not going to talk to the press. As a matter of fact, Kyrie Irving, okay, perfect example. Kyrie Irving, incredible basketball player, all-star championship level NBA player. He said, I'm not talking to the press. And they were like, okay, there's nothing they could do about it. And then he took off a few weeks from playing basketball at all for his mental health. Where's Kyrie right now? Deep in the playoffs. And at no point did the NBA insult or attack Kyrie for taking care of himself. I don't know what's wrong with tennis. This is one of the most popular tennis players in the world. And this woman is getting support of all the different athletes, not just tennis players, but athletes from other sports, talking about, listen, they ask athletes to talk about mental health. They ask athletes to talk about depression and so on, to remind people that they do have an incredible talent, but they're still human and they still deal with human issues. And this woman is basically taking off work to take care of herself. And they're trying to trash her and do all this to her, and it's wrong. Okay, maybe you need to look at what is the press doing, why is it so difficult, or maybe you just need to say, hey, we need you to talk to the press, but understand that there are some times that you can't talk to the press, and on those days you don't have to. There's a compromise. That's the point. There's a compromise. But attacking her, and you're not going to fine her enough money. Money is the least of this woman's problem, so it ain't about the money. Okay, it's about her mental health. So allow her to take care of herself. Also on the topic of race in sports, now, Danny Ainge last week, when all these racist things happening in sports, in the NBA, the insults in Utah to the Kyrie Irving, the same player I was talking about, saying he didn't want to go to Boston because he didn't want to put up with the racial crap that the Celtics fans throw at him. And every athlete that's played in Boston said, yes, not all of the fans, but there are racist fans in Boston, chime in, blah, blah, blah. And Danny Ainge, the president of operations and former Celtic player, said, no, never heard any, don't know what they're talking about, never heard it. Danny Ainge just quit. He resigned. And interestingly, they gave the job to Brad Stevens. They just right away gave the job to Brad Stevens. What's interesting about that is you continually hear about there being no people of color in the front office jobs, and a front office job opened up, and right away they just gave it to the coach, who happens to be a white guy. No knock against Brad Stevens, just, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? That's the question. What are you going to do? I don't know. And here, finally, and this was interesting. Social media, a lot of times social media sucks. But every now and then, social media reveals the truth. And every now and then we learn from somebody posts something in social media and it goes viral for the right reasons. The right reasons meaning that it's something that we need to be aware about, we need to read or whatever. And this woman, her name's Pamela Chandler. She's from Ohio, I believe. And she made a post about things she learned from being married to a black man and parenting a biracial child. And it's very interesting that she would post this, because now, if you've watched any TV over the past year, the mixed families and the biracial children, the commercials, every commercial, like if you see a commercial where both parents are black or both parents are white or Latino or whatever, you're like, oh my God, what's wrong with that? Every commercial is a mixed family, and she talks about the reality of it. And in reading this post, what I like about it is she doesn't come across as angry. She just talks about things she's learned, things she never thought of. And I hope people are reading this and actually listening, not getting all defensive and this and that, but just listening. So she says, as a white woman married to a black man raising a biracial child, I had to unlearn a lot of things. But then she said, I've also had to learn twice as much. And she became aware and started to notice things that she never would have before. Some of the things. I have to drive anytime we're leaving the Dayton area. Okay, she just knows that. She has to handle store clerks' returns, getting documents signed, anything with any federal building or administrative work. She gets further with the paperwork. If she does it, they listen to her more and are much more agreeable to her than him. She noticed her husband goes out of his way to be nice and talk to everyone, not because he's a people person, but because he knows as a 6'5" black man, it intimidates people. So he overcompensates by being overly friendly. I have that problem, but I'm not good at being overly friendly. Fortunately, I can be funny on occasion, okay? She said, if Walter's pushing the cart, I have to have my receipt ready when leaving the store. None of our neighbors thought we owned our home. Multiple neighbors stopped her father and asked him if he was the landlord because they just didn't believe that the black man could own a home. She said it took years to find a church without racist undertones. When doll shopping, our daughter gets 25 white options and 1 or 2 black or mixed race doll options. And she goes on and on. So many things about this. And forget about when her husband, black man, takes their biracial child to the playground, the side eyes that creates. I appreciate that. I appreciate her posting the truth. And I hope the, quote, Karens of the world can see it or hear it, but they don't. Karens don't. I'm not even going to go into the details. It was just a great moment. It was at a swimming pool at a resort. And remember, this is Pride Month, right? A gay couple, 2 women kissed by the pool. And these 3 Karens went off. And they were like, there are children here and blah, 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 blah. And the people by the pool, I don't know if you watch Game of Thrones, but there was a walk of shame where you literally... She had to walk, and the crowd is just going, shame, 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 shame. They're just chanting it. And that's what the people at the pool did to these 3 Karens for attacking the gay couple for having kids. They just kept saying shame, 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 as the Karens as the Karens had, Jesus, phone. I am sorry about that. As the Karens had to walk from the pool, and one of them, you remember, this is about the children, started cursing out the people. What the fuck is wrong with you there? My children are here and fuck you and this and that, which is great for their children to learn. I think that was their day of teaching their children tolerance of others. So shame on you, Karens. Shame on you, Karens. And thank you to Pamela Chandler for sharing a little bit of truth of what it's like in, quote, post-racial America. Help your Republican friends. Don't take up a collection. They have money. Just help them out. So Alonzo Bodden saying thank you. Who's paying attention? As always, you are, and I appreciate it. Next week, Saturday, I'll be at the Janice Theater in Chicago, Waukegan to be specific. Check it out. I'll see you then. Thank you.